Welcome back. I'm Karyn Pugliese. At issue today, rewriting the book on women in politics with Sheila Copps. In 1985, while responding to a question in the House, Conservative MP John Crosbie told Sheila Copps, "Just quiet down, baby." Sheila responded she was nobody's baby, a line which became her trademark and also the title of one of her books, which is sort of a primer for women in politics. And in that book, which is partly confessional and partly a 101 for women in politics, Sheila offers advice while chronicling her own wins and losses in politics. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So, John Crosbie, have you forgiven him?
Oh yes, many years ago. My husband's from Newfoundland, so I get a Christmas card every year from John with chronicling what's happening to his children and grandchildren, and it's kind of a generational thing. I mean, he's sort of like almost, I wouldn't say almost my dad's age, but certainly quite a bit older than I am, and viewed the world through a different prism.
Well, it's good that you put it behind you, but you were called a lot of things during your career. I've got a list, okay? At Queen's Park, you were apparently sexually harassed by an MP who tried to kiss you. Some fellow MPPs sent a note asking how much you weighed. Apparently they had a bet going. And of course, we talked about you being shoved up against the wall in Parliament by a parliamentary secretary. And you were also called a bitch and a slut during debates. This sounds absolutely crazy.
I know.
How did you handle it?
Well, and I think what's interesting is that young women today kind of look at the voyage of liberation as something that we've already accomplished. And I mean, I don't want to get into the details about what women earn. You graduate from university and you can expect to make about 25% of what your male graduates get. But when I was coming onto the political scene, I mean, not only were these comments common, people weren't ashamed to kind of be out there saying them in public. And in fact, the one particular case where I was in a repartee with somebody over a free trade agreement and I was called a slut, he denied it at first, and then it was caught on microphone. So eventually he had to sort of get up and apologize. And I think the experience with John Crosbie sort of set the tone that in the future, if people do level these sexist comments, that they're not going to get away with it. So it actually did help to kind of moderate the tone a little bit in the tenure of what happens in the House, because it's much more difficult to get away with it now than it was in those days.
I was going to ask you about that because I think the only thing that I recall in recent years was maybe Belinda Stronach being called a dog. So do you think it's gotten better that we're...
I think it's a lot more, there's a lot more political correctness attached to what is said, and I think there are certainly MPs or members of the broad public that hold sexist views, but they're smart enough to keep them quiet usually. And I happen to think that most of the people in Parliament are really just a reflection of society at large. I don't think it's any more sexist there, but I think sexism does exist in Canada, and you can just take a look at a woman and a man's paycheck to figure out that even, 50 years after equality legislation, we're still not there yet, or 60 years. We're on the verge of 100 years of International Women's Day, and still the inequities are there.